And I think let's get started. Good afternoon. I'm Kelly Purvis. I'm with the City Manager's Office. I'm a Senior Management Analyst and I'm in charge of Arts and Culture for the city. And today I have with me
Dominique Albrecht. I'm Assistant to the City Manager here in Coronado, and I oversee the Economic Development, Social Services, and Community Pride Sense of Place grants.
So we are going to start off with an overview of the 2021-22 application and program for this coming year. I'm going to just ask, does everybody see the screen sharing that says overview and the date on it? No one, if someone doesn't see that, please let us know. Okay, it looks like everybody's seeing it. So let's get started. So we're going to go over several things today. We're going to go over the important dates. We're going to do an application overview, a submission overview, an evaluation and scoring by community element overview, and we're going to give you our contact information if you have any questions or concerns during the process.
So thank you all for joining us today as we embark on another great year of our community grant program. It's an honor to get to work with you all and to provide a level of support to you while you undertake this process. So if you take anything away from this conversation today, it's that we're here. We're here to help. We're here to provide support, insight. If there's anything we can do to help make this process as smooth as we can, feel free to reach out. I'd like to start with the important dates. So the applications, one of the council members asked us, and the council as a whole really wanted us to see if we could accelerate the timeline on this year's grant program. So we're going to make our best attempt to do that. April 2nd, applications will be due. So if you haven't seen yet, applications are available on our website. They are updated for FY21-22. And you can get them, like I said, on our website, and they will be due April 2nd this year by 5:00 p.m. And we'll get further into the submission requirements. May 7th, the Cultural Arts Commission will be meeting to review the recommendations to council. And on June 1st, the council will set the budget. And at that point, that's kind of our clue for when we know the final amount that will be allocated and available to the community grant program. On the 15th, right after that, we're going to turn it around and get the allocation recommendations to the council. So last year, this happened on July 20th. This year, we're going to aim for June 15th. And then on June 25th, we're also going to work and make sure that we can get your agreements assembled and turned around and sent to you by the 25th of June. All of this comes with a little bit of a caveat. Because of the tight timelines, there is a potential that these dates could change, but we will make sure that we let you know. We will send out a personalized email to the people that are on this registration, who's registered today and who've received grants in the past if there is a change, but we are working hard to maintain the schedule. Money will be distributed if you're able to get the agreements to us within a reasonable amount of time, and they'll be sent again via DocuSign. By July 1st. So again, trying to accelerate the schedule. So the main date to keep in mind is April 2nd.
So let's go over the grant documents.
So the program documents, all of this can again be found online. The process and the structure is the same as last year. So you'll have the program guidance documents, which lay out the evaluation criteria and the response expectations for each of the evaluation categories. It also provides information on some general policy items around the grant program, what can be paid for by the grant type, and some general information that will really help you when you are responding. And then, of course, the application also available on our website for FY21-22. So again, this is just what the program guidelines look like. If it's your first time responding to the grant program, this is a great place to start. It explains all of the requirements of the program. And I just want to highlight, so, being in this COVID environment, one of the things that we talked about doing was trying to limit the massive changes in the program for another year so that we could all have another year with the current structure. The primary change, I'm going to work backwards, is for the program budget. What we're going to ask you to do is to provide on page 7, and we'll get there. When you're giving us your program budget, some feedback we got was, well, there's no way for us to show the fully loaded cost of our program. We're only able to show our organizational budget, and then we can only show what we are requesting from the city. What we're going to do this year is, if you would like to, you can provide your full program budget as an attachment while limiting the page 7 submission to what you're requesting to be covered by the community grant. So for example, if your program is $25,000, but you're only requesting $10,000 from the community grant program, you're going to submit the $10,000 via the program budget template, but you can also do an additional page showing our total program is $25,000 and we're asking for 10 from the grants. And that's just a way, again, for our grantees to be able to communicate what their programs look like. And then finally, the request limitation. There is a $200,000 limitation on the request at the time of application. And that's across all community elements. So not per element, but 20,000, 20,000, however you want to divvy it up, it's got to be a limit of 200,000.
So let's go over the application now. The application can be found online, and it's a fillable PDF. It's only 7 pages long, and 4 of the pages are left blank for your narratives. And a single application is required for each program, activity, or event. It hasn't changed from last year. You just hover over the response box like this, and you will put in your organization name, etc. So that it will give you a tooltip when you open it. So the very first page, you're going to put your organizational name. If you're a committee, if you're a nonprofit, whatever, you are a nonprofit, your committee name, like Coronado Island Film Festival, Coronado Earth Day Committee, Coronado SAFE, those kind of organizations. You'll give us your mailing address, your tax ID nonprofit status, and we will be checking to make sure your nonprofit status is current. We need your contact name, the person who, if we have a question, we call that person or we email that person. So those 3 blanks are very important for the organizational. And that will repeat once you enter your organization and name, it will repeat across all of the publications automatically, the application. The next is your total expenditure budget. We need the total budget for your organization, not just the programs funded by the city grants, but your total budget for your organization. If you received a grant from the Coronado last year, yes. If you did not, no. And if you received a grant 2 years ago and carried the money over and were allowed to carry it over, please press yes on that so we know. But we'll be asking later if you had any money remaining. If yes, what's the total value of the grant awarded last year? So if you were awarded multiple grants, it's the total amount, not just a single amount. And what did you use it for? Give us the titles of your grant or a synopsis of what you used, the 1, 2, 3, or 4 grants that you received. The next question is how much funding, if yes, how much grant funding is remaining from last year? And let us know. And in your narrative, if there's remaining money, you can let us know that it was remaining. Total amount that you're asking for the organization for this year, that would be across all elements. And as Dominique mentioned, it should not exceed 200,000 in that box. Then you'll be attaching 3 documents: the most recently submitted IRS Form 990, your past 3 years of financial statements, and your proposed project activity expenditure budget. You'll also have organizational capacity information that you'll be attaching. That includes the name and terms of all board members if you have a board. And if you have employees, we'll need the name and bios of your top 3 employees. And if you have a personnel policy and an anti-nepotism policy, you will check yes and attach them. If you don't have them, you'll check no. And then if you have a disposition of surplus personal property policy, also attach that. If you don't have one, check no. And we just went over all of that. If an organization is new and does not have 3 years of financial statements, attach what you have. And in the narrative under organizational and financial capacity, just note that you've only been in existence a number of years and don't have 3 years of financial statements. The budget is submitted using the template provided on page 7 of the application, and I'll show you that in a second. And that the numbers, the totals, will be automatically totaled. Also remember to name all of your board members and their terms, but the top 3 is what your employees should be listed on the attachments. Let's see. I've gone over all of this. So we jump to program information. You'll give the event title, And again, that will repeat across on the application on the top each time. And then you tell us what kind of grant you want. And let's review those grants.
Right, so there is a specific grant type that should be noted for each of your applications. And it's really important that you keep in mind what you've asked for in the past to make sure that you're in alignment with what is acceptable under the grant types. And staff's going to be checking back on the compliance for those. For example, for a one-time purchase, we only allow one time of that purchase to be covered by the grant. So someone couldn't say, we want to purchase this particular item, and then in the next year come back and say they want to make the same one-time purchase. That's a limitation on the grant type. If you are doing seed money, it's to cover the first 3 years of the program. So if you're on year 4, you need to keep in mind that that seed money now no longer applies, and it's limited to consecutive years. If you are doing a special event, funding is limited to no more than 50% of the total event cost. So that's something that you will need to note, that our event is $10,000. We're asking for $5,000, and be sure to make that clear. Again, we're going to help by reviewing for compliance, and we'll reach out with any questions, but you want to make sure you're being mindful of those grant types. Finally, for recurring events, this is a recurring special event. It's distinctive from the first special event because that was happening one time. This is something that recurs. And again, it should be free of nominal cost to attendees and really serve the broader Coronado community.
So the last section on here is program information. And this is where you're going to have up to 4 pages where you reference the evaluation criteria and focus areas per community element. A rubric is provided on the website, which shows how applications are looked at and scored by our readers. You'll be wanting to cover those criteria and focus areas, and you have those pages to do the narrative. You may also submit up to 3 additional supplemental pages to support your application. This includes graphs, charts, links to videos, pictures. We only take 3 pages, so don't attach a 25-page document. You can attach videos, but make sure they're not 2 hours because we're only asking our readers to watch the first 5 minutes. So, and those kind of documents should be supporting for that particular program or your organization. If you are applying for different areas, keep in mind we have different readers for the different elements, so you can apply the same supplemental materials if they are related to the request. If they're not, they can be different for each request. That's up to you. But again, 3 additional supplemental pages to support. And we've gone over that. Oh, I should point out, we don't submit large files or executable files. Please send us PDFs, JPEGs, or links to videos. And please remember to note the evaluation category in the narrative section. Failure to clearly identify that will make it very difficult to score and could result in a loss of points. And I'm going to show you, for example, here's a page in the narrative, and the top says organizational and financial capacity. That's an area of evaluation, and then the narrative would be below. Past performance, narrative below. Local focus, narrative below, and collaboration. Those are the 4 elements that are being looked at in this particular page on the narrative. So make sure you use that in your responses. Set your type at 12 points. Don't use itty-bitty type in Times New Roman. And our PDF does not allow for extensive formatting, photos, etc. That can be in the narrative form. We are looking for content and in narrative more than anything, your story. Final page is the budget page. As you see, be mindful of your restrictions. Remember, if it's a grant that says it can only be 50% of the total program, make sure you make that clear that you're following that restriction. You can respond to the preset standard categories, and we're using that information to collect data this year. For example, staff and salaries and benefits. If you have staff that you're going to be using, we'd like to know that. Advertising and marketing, office supplies, event stage rentals, sound systems, event t-shirts, signage, portable toilets. Give us your list of expenses and your description so we can see what our grant money is being used for. The total is automatically calculated, And your total budget amount will be what your organization is requesting under this application. So the total amount requested is $25,000.
So for this section, we just want to clarify. On the bottom, the note, so this is kind of a new page from previous years. On the bottom, the note says, please complete the standard list of expenses. So there's going to be 3 staff salaries and benefits, advertising, marketing, office supplies that we're going to try to collect some data on so that we can return to the council with some information on what the standard spend and grant expenditures are for a few categories. If that doesn't apply to your organization, either way, whether it's filled in or not, if it doesn't apply to your organization, put a 0, and that will be fine. We'll just know that we're, obviously we're not going to collect data from that because it's going to be a 0. But if you have additional expenses beyond the 3 standard, go ahead and list those like you normally would. But again, if it does not apply to your organization or to your program, you can put 0.
Okay.
Yeah. So submitting the application. This is important. It really helps us to turn things around quickly and track. When you click submit, it's going to pop up with an email. Before that, you want to save your file with this nomenclature. And the not bolded part is automatically generated when you click save. What you need to change is make the file name the organization name _ the program name. For example, organization name, Chamber of Commerce _ Holiday Parade 2022, and so on. So you can see the example there, Coronado Earth Day Committee _ 2022 Earth Day Celebration. Please remember to do this. It really does help us to track these faster.
This is what the email looks like when you hit submit. Here you'll see that it's returned from, and there's your sample name. And then you're going to attach the required attachments, your 990, your financial statements, your board member names, and as applicable, your employee bios, personnel, anti-nepotism, and disposal of surplus personal property policies, and your additional 3 pages of non-narrative material, including your charts, your graphs, your pictures, and your links. Again, PDF or JPEGs. No big files. They'll get kicked back by the city's website. So let's review one more time. Use the online application form as provided, and remember your narrative is limited to 4 pages. You need to use Adobe when you fill this out, and it is a free program. If you don't have it available, please call us. We'll help you walk through downloading it. An application is required for each distinct program, activity, or event, and you can use those 3 pages for supplemental information. Attach it in the email that you send when you submit, and please remember to save. Note, do not include your narrative responses in supplemental materials. You'll also receive a personal confirmation from Dominique or myself within 24 hours after your application is received. If you do not hear from us, please follow up with us so we make sure we have your application. And I can't stress enough 2 things. Save a copy of your application for your records and submit early and often, but definitely early. So we make sure that there's no technical glitches on the Friday of April 2nd. We're here to help. We want to make sure that you get it in, and we just want to make sure that you have a record of it as well.
So next we're going to go over the evaluation criteria. So as everybody knows who's participated before, and if you haven't, we use independent anonymous field readers that are recruited specifically to review each community element. And just for your background, we do try to select people and recruit people that have expertise specifically in the area. So example, arts, we try to pick those who have unique experience and expertise in arts, social services, et cetera, to provide that expert field reader view of your application. Field readers complete a conflict of interest disclosure. So if they have connections to organizations, we know that upfront ahead of time, and we ask them to recuse themselves from that community element and from being a reader if they disclose a conflict of interest. So again, keeping that independence of our field readers. Field readers will be participating in training as they do, and we will be onboarding them. And we're actually really excited this year about upping our program that we provide to the field readers and providing them even more value and quality and helping them to, do great jobs reading for us. Applications are evaluated using the evaluation criteria rubric. Again, the rubric's available online. That's a great way to see kind of what the response expectation is, and that's how the field readers are going to be looking at your application. And then finally, the field readers will provide us scores at the end of the process. So scoring is based on a 5-point scale. So it's pretty self-explanatory here, 5 being a strong response, all the way to 1 being generally unresponsive to what the prompt was asking for. And there are no points for blank responses. Again, just to reiterate, we provide a variety of resources in support of our grant applicants. A major one is that evaluation criteria rubric. It provides detailed information on the evaluation criteria, the associated weighting for each community element, and the rating scale. There are no changes as noted from the previous fiscal year to the evaluation criteria. So again, this is another year for us to be able to respond with the current structure. Sample application, that was a great suggestion that we got last year from this conversation, and so we went ahead and used the new grant application for this cycle, filled it in, and kind of showed what the expectation is for the way the sample application should look. And resources we provide webinars, so we're doing this webinar, and this webinar will be available on our website, the recording. And we'll be taking the questions and producing, if there are questions in FAQ like we did last year, all of these resources available to you on our website. And then Kelly, you want to talk about the...
Sure. There's quite a few online resources for grant writing last year. Last year, we did do 2 sessions with Laura Dietrich from USD. This year, we've decided to put up 2 links to very short how to write a grant proposal step by step to kind of get people started who haven't done it before. Those of you who have applied in the past, I think that you probably participated last year in the webinar with Laura and are well on your way. But just to get people started, we've given you 2 resources here, and those are live links in the presentation that will be sent to you.
So again, to reiterate, where to find information, coronado.ca.us/community grants. We made a special URL so that you can get right to us. And as always, you know where to find Kelly, you know where to find me. We are so happy to take your calls, your emails. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And here's our contact information. Again, we are looking forward to working with you, and we will make sure that we will turn around this orientation webinar and have it on our website for your viewing later on.
So thank you everyone for joining us. We look forward to receiving your applications and seeing what you're going to bring to the table for the next fiscal year. All right. Thank you.
Have a great evening.